Welcome to a great edition of Beyond Sight, the Beyond Sight podcast. Of course, I'm your host, Hasan Clay. So, I got a story to tell. I used to love that song by Notorious B.I.G. Got a story to tell, right? Some use that hook. I got a story to tell. And it's more about me and beyond sight, meaning the loss of sight and what I actually gained in this. So, a couple of weeks ago, I had the privilege of presenting my conflict intelligence course up in Cleveland, Ohio. And it was a great workshop or a great professional development class with the Umar Umar Center School. And shout out to Dr. Higgs and her staff at the school. And something Dr. Higgs has said to me when I gave him a feedback form. And so what happened is she said, Hassan, she said, like, I really don't have anything to gauge from in by critiquing you in this situation because, and this is what was beautiful about what she said. She said, you are doing something that most people probably wouldn't do or couldn't do or don't do, who is who is blind. You are actually blind trying to work in the sighted world. You're moving in between, trying to move around. You're moving around the room, and you're commanding the room. You're moving in between clinical stuff and academic and worldly information. You're moving in between languages, in between Arabic and English, and you're making connections with everybody because, again, part of the room where full with immigrant and people from who are immigrants, right? And so say, and you are really actually doing this, and I don't even know who I can gauge this against. And I was thinking. Then I also had a participant in the workshop who father is blind, and so she was like, "Oh my God," she caught up with me and during the lunch break, and she was almost in tears, right? And she was saying how she just admire what I'm doing and things of nature there, right? And really, sometimes I don't know what else to do but other try to be myself. But this has been a journey, right? This has been really been a journey because I went through my thing with depression and things of losing my eyesight because my eyes were a very vital part of the things that are done. We all do out here. We take for granted. But in the process of losing my sight, I was also, and you've heard me say this, I was also able to gain my vision. And also in gaining vision, I learned a few tools along the way that we actually miss by having sight, believe it or not. Now, I don't wish, you know, the lack of sight on anyone, right? But I want us to kind of have an understanding when we're not tapping into all our faculties the right way, we actually miss a lot in what we're doing. And so now I'm able to hear a lot of things that I probably wasn't able to hear before. And it's not like my height, my senses has gotten so heightened and all that type of stuff, because really that's kind of people say that, but that's really not true, right? To some degree, what I'm saying is not true. The heightened part is because you rely on certain things a little bit more than you normally would if you had all the faculties here. So what happened is Now I tune in, I listen probably a little bit more than I probably would listen before. I'm paying attention. Sometimes, I used to get people giving me when I be paying attention, I get this look on my face, right? People, man, why you be looking so mean? I'm trying to be attentive, right? I'm trying to listen, right? And my forehead get a little scrunched up or whatever, right? And it's funny, when people say it, some of these just get on my nerve at first, right? Because I'm really trying to pay attention, and people say I'm looking mean or whatever, right? But anyway, what happened is I pay attention to things like, and even with my clients, I hear when voice changes take place, when the inflections gets a little different. And I also look at, or I hear people when they're, sometimes when they're coming, when they're going, when they're losing concentration. You can kind of hear a lot of this, right? And I'm also able to detect the BS a little bit better, right? Because I can't see people. And so I have to rely on other skills. And people tell on themselves. People give away their who they are by the things they do. And so it also had me tap into what I now call this conflict intelligence system, because what it really relies on is being aware, and I have a thing that I start my, and I've started some of the podcasts off the same way, with a line that says, you don't have a conflict issue, you have an awareness issue. Because a lot of times we are not aware of the things that are actually really going on around us, right? And I know growing up and being in certain environments, coming through prison and different other things that I've unfortunately had the misfortune of being in that space. You have to be able to keep your head on a swivel. A lot of times you got to see what's coming. You got to be able to pay attention to sounds and different things like that, because every sound is different. When it's too calm, too peaceful, you hear it, something might finna jump off. If you hear it jumping, something's jumping off, right? And so you have to kind of pay attention to when things are going on. And a lot of times you kind of you have to make sure that you are always, your head is on a swivel. Well, so you can see what's coming. Well, I can't do that now. So I have to kind of pay attention. I have to pay attention. Not kind of. Let me be clear. I have to pay attention to things that are taking place. If I want to service people in the best way, I have to pay attention. I have to be aware. I have to listen. I have to know how to make sure that I'm giving someone my undivided attention. And in some degree, that has even made me a better person, even in my personal life, with my wife and things of the nature there, and my kids. Now, this is my opinion of me. Now, they might have a whole nother opinion of me, okay? So, but this is what I believe I have been able to accomplish because I listen. I take my time to listen. And now I actually put into effect, I put into motion the things that I actually teach when it's pausing. And I'm not going to say I get it right all the time because I'm still human. But the idea of trying to now purposefully practice this, the system in which I am talking about, I am aware. I am learning even more as as I continue to mature with the lack of sight. And so now I go beyond the simple things that's right there in front of me. I know how to come back around and ask other questions. I know how to listen for the peripheral things, the things that are attached to the question that I'm actually asking. Right? I understand how to do these things that I probably wouldn't have done. I just take it for free on face grant or for face value. I take it for granted that this is what I was doing. This is what I do. Sometimes we always think that because we heard somebody say a particular thing, we know what it is that they're talking about. That we don't ask in-depth questions. We don't ask more questions. We don't become inquisitive in the things that we are trying to find out. We're not curious about particular particular things. Well, tell me why this like this. Okay, explain that to me a little bit more. Okay, this is what you're saying. Okay, uh, put me into your head. Put me in your head? Tell me where you are with that. Versus, yeah, I know what you're saying, or I'm just going to go off and do something because I heard it. Oh, I know what you're saying. I know what that meant. We automatically think we know because here, because we think we can see, and we think our eyes are attached to our ears, that we're okay. And the quote, a line from Jason Momoa in the show that's on Apple, and I'm not trying to advertise Apple because Apple don't pay me, all right? But I'm talking about the show. He told his son, it was a thing called See. The show was called See, SEE, right? And it was a whole society of blind people, and this is how they was functioning. And they were actually hunting down people who had sight because they called them witches, right? And here's what happens, and it's a whole lot of things that come with that. I'm just not even going to go into all of that. But he had told his son, "Your eyes deceive you." And how many of us are deceived by what we look at or what we see? It used to be a game. I don't know if they even do it anymore. Called three card Molly, hide the P, the shell game. And what they do is they move that thing around, they flip that thing around or whatever. But what they're doing is that you seeing the hands doing all of them, but you're not really paying attention to what's really happening in the background, right? You're not paying attention to the guy who's actually working with him, who's actually betting. Man, you see him making, getting, but they're working together. They're trying to make you think that you also can do it as well. And you're not aware of the things that are going on around you. And this is how a lot of times we get conned, get tricked out of our lives, we get tricked out of a multitude of things because our eyes are attached to our ears, which then makes us think that we know what's going on. And you take for granted the nuances of things that are going on. And I think with the loss of my sight, I started learning and having understanding of nuances, right? Simple things, things that really are taking place in the background, things that are attached to that main thing that give it life or give it depth, right? I've been able to learn how to put that into practice. Now, that's simply because I'm blind. But what I also understand is that people who have sight also have the opportunity to do the very same thing that I'm talking about now that I have to do because I no longer have sight. in how we are just not aware of things. So, say if I'm working at a school and this kid is being a little problematic, I'm not aware. The only thing I know is that this kid is maybe, fidgety, or he's talkative, or he's aggressive, or different things. But I may not know that this kid hasn't eaten since lunch yesterday, right? So this kid is actually pretty hungry. I don't know this. This kid probably, uh, home life probably isn't the best. And nothing really I can do about it. But I probably can be a little bit more empathetic and then work with this kid in a particular way, because now I have a basic understanding of what might be happening with this kid, right? Or that I'm in a relationship with this woman, and she's been in previous relationships, and not only has she been abused in some of these other relationships, but she's even abused as a kid growing up. And, so she been, maybe been touched or tampered with or played with or whatever. And so, she had some hard things taking place with her at home. And then as she came, when she finally got to me, not saying me, but to me, she had all these things going, and that I want to kind of treat her well, but she doesn't understand what good treatment looks like or feels like, because she's never had it, experienced it before. So she might be hyper vigilant about, standing her ground or doing this and doing that. And, or even a guy who may have been in a relationship with a woman who kind of drug him, who took advantage of him, and things of nature there. But he's never really seen what manhood looks like and how to handle a situation like that, because he didn't have men growing. He didn't really have real strong male figures growing up in his presence, right? Or what it looks like going to work every day and going to get a job, because people didn't show me how to be job ready, how to get ready to go out here and work on somebody's job. And so I bring a whole lot of messiness from the house and from the streets, and I bring it to the work environment, and I create a bad culture within the work environment, because I didn't have people. And I don't know that this is the problem, because this person hasn't been thoroughly trained or educated, because in most instances now, even on work sites, they're not really doing training anymore like they used to. When I was coming up, people got trained a little bit better. They're not training people not only how to do the job, but how to be on the job, right? And so people don't have high conflict intelligence, right? They don't know how to manage themselves within the proper framework of conflict intelligence. Some of us might call it emotional intelligence, or wherever we don't know how to, or being emotionally regulated, or we don't know how to do these things. I was able to learn some of this stuff because I really lost my sight, and I had to do it. I couldn't just sit in this house all day, sit in the dark. I'm in the dark and I'm sitting in the dark. Now, granted, yeah, and I also had to learn how to, because of the awareness, I also had to learn how to rely on people a little bit more, because I used to be a person, I don't rely on nobody, I ain't, ain't this and this and that. And I had to learn how to put my trust in people. And I learned a lot of this with the loss of my sight. And the loss of my sight has been now approximately a 12-year journey. right? I think I started tapering off more so. Well, it's probably longer than that. Probably about a 15-year journey now. And quick story for you, for everybody. This is funny, right? But it's not funny, but it's funny. So I was losing my sight, but I was still out here driving, right? And so I'm on 285. Call myself trying to get over because traffic is crazy on 285 by here in Atlanta, especially on the east side of 285 by 20. You know how I can get congested trying to get from 285 to 20. Well, I was trying to get over, and because there was a wreck right up in front of me, and a cop car was there. I caught myself, but I'm still drifting, right? So when I finally came back around, and you got to understand, because I'm losing my sight, my sight started leaving me from peripheral, so it started coming in. So I don't have peripheral vision from at the beginning. I didn't have peripheral vision, and so when I'm turned to the right, looking, trying to. That means my left side, I don't have peripheral vision. I actually hit a cop car, right? And so, I didn't do any damage, but this guy just, he just go off on me, right? But I just learned then, you know what? I may need to just hang up this driving. This is 2011, right? And so I was also trying to function in a sighted world with no sight, or limited sight at that time. I was functioning with limited sight. And so just the awareness of me wasn't there. Because first time you got to start in, then come out, right? The awareness about me wasn't there. I had to learn a lot about me in this process, how to function as an unsighted person in the sighted world, how to be a person who still wants to be a contributor to society and to the world, but now I don't know how to do it. What this look like, in the process of this taking place, of course, I've had the opportunity of getting to this field of working with couples, um, working with individuals, working with organizations, and teaching various different things, and especially based upon what we're now looking at called conflict intelligence. I was I've been working in this field doing this work, counseling, things of nature there, and being in a position now where the technology has caught up with what I'm thinking and how to even manage myself with the technology, right? How to make that technology work for me, right? This was all a part of the awareness game. And we're not functioning from the we actually function because of sight, believe it or not. And I just want you to think about this. Because of sight, we function from a selfish perspective. We don't think about the things that are happening around us unless it's happening to us, right? We're not empathizing with other people and other situations unless it's directly happening to us. Well, when I lost my sight because of where I went, it made me a little bit more empathetic to the. I feel for other people, a little bit more feeling towards other people, and aware of their personal plights, and then being into this field, I think that has allowed me to be a better, you know, coach, counselor, whatever you want to call it. It allowed me to be a better person to able to facilitate that type of service to the people who I need to serve, who is looking for that service. And so it makes me wonder, I'm fascinated even more so now when I see, people back in the day like a Stevie Wonder, or who's or the Ray Charleses of the world, or different different people who mastered their skill, right, to become, dynamic people in the world because they didn't have sight to really help them along the way. You know, I may not be able to shoot my basketball now. You know what I mean? Because I probably couldn't gauge from where I'm at to the rim, right? But that's something that's past me at this point. But I can do something else. My mind, God has given me the mind to do the things that I am able to do. And when He took a faculty away from me, He opened up a tremendous amount of other things for me that I was never aware that I had. And now, again, I don't want people to be in a position of saying they lose their sight in order to gain it. Part of my job right now is to help you do it without having those losses, without having a fear of losing or lack of because you don't have a sight, or someone who doesn't have their hands because their hands have been amputated, or a leg has been amputated, or they lost their hearing, or anything along those lines that you know would then not allow you to kind of be in the forefront of what it is that you believe to be in the forefront of what you are here to do, your purpose in life, right? Being a good husband, a good mother, a good wife, a good father, a good sibling, a good son, a good daughter, a good community member, a good neighbor. You know, you're able to do this because you have the faculties to be able to do it, to be the best person you. And it's not just about the cosmetic look of it. You get in the mirror and you can sit and you can groom yourself and you can look good and you can do that, and that's as far as you get in. You put on your nice clothes. Man, I think I don't know. I still think I look good when I put my stuff on, and I don't even know where it is. You know what I mean? A lot of times, I mean, hey, help me with these colors. Does this go with this or this or that? Yeah, okay. I still think I'm trying to pull it off, but I just don't leave myself on the superficial level or the cosmetic level of things. I know to look deeper. And even with dealing with people, you have to be able to reach inside of them and touch their soul, touch their heart, connect with them in that way versus, oh, she's a beautiful woman, or he's a fine man, or whatever. You have to be able to touch them. But I think I got the skill set now to show somebody how to do that because I had to learn it myself, and I can't give you something that I don't have. And I thank God for being able to have that type of. He's giving me that, and even as I get older, I think I'm learning more the wisdom of the situations he's coming about even more so. So the question is, what did I lose when I lost my sight? It's what did I gain when I didn't lost my sight? That's the question that I'm always, because people always ask me, how hard was it you losing your sight? How hard was it, what was some of the travels that you had to do, or what was some of the things that you had to overcome and all this other type of stuff here. You know, we all have to overcome something, right? But let's change that question. What is it that I learned with the loss of sight? how did I elevate, if you will, because of it? And one will have to see themselves as elevating, right? One will have to have that notion of themselves that they have, kind of moved to another level in their life because of whatever it is they have. What was it that then allowed you to move from depression to doing something a lot better? Well, because I got to be honest with you. I mean, over the last year, think, you know, I'm thankful to this with doing certain things. But I mean, at this point, I lost about 50 pounds now. And I don't know. I want y'all to go back and look at some of my old videos when I was doing the Get Made podcast and everything else. I want you to look at kind of some of the weight that how I looked, even in my face. I'm sure because I can feel it. I don't know about you seeing it, but I know what I can feel, right? And I want you to see what that looked like in that travel in the last 2 years. And I started the podcast January 8th, 2024. I want you to look at some of them from the first podcast to this one right here. I challenge you, go back and look at it and see what it looked like. Right. And so what was it that, at one point, because I had gotten so out of bad, it was bad off. I was walking with a cane because I was so heavy. I get to a heavier point and I'm being heavy that it really just messed my whole back up. It pushes on the nerve to where I really can't walk. And I actually was contemplating getting a walker so I can function, so I can move around. And at some point, I ain't gonna do that. I'm not doing that. I'm entirely too young to be walking around with a walker. I'm not going to do that. What do I need to do? So I started looking at some things. Had some people who gave me some advice, some doctors when I went to the doctors with some of the things that they advised. And so now I'm walking a lot more. I used to walk a lot before I lost the sight. I used to do a lot of walking, right? That was my exercise. Miles a day, miles per day, right? Miles. I mean, miles. At one point, I was up like 10 miles, per day. And so, but now I'm doing certain things now. I'm working out a little bit more. I'm slimming it up a little bit. Even my wife saying, you looking pretty decent. You look pretty good there, bro. And so I take her word for it. I know she ain't gonna lie to me. You know what I mean? And nobody lying to me. So yeah, I want you to look at this thing that I had to do something different in order to get different. I had to be the change that I want coming towards me. And so, yeah, I started getting my mind right, started learning how to cope a little differently, start putting better coping practices in play. And that was simply about trying to change my mind about being aware. And now my practice is going well. My podcast is doing well. I have 3 books now that I authored that you guys can find on Amazon under Hasan Clay. One is Taming the Storm. The other is The Moment Effect. In my latest book, I really haven't pushed out that well, but I'm going to push it out in a minute. It's called Presence Over Profit. And so, yeah, I'm doing some things. I'm traveling a little bit more. I'm in front of audiences now, and I'm putting together workshops and things of that nature there. I'm doing a whole lot more now than I was trying to do before. That's when I had sight, right? And now I've been blessed to kind of move in a position without sight. And so I have actually looked at this thing now where for me, for me, it's all about beyond sight. It really is all about beyond. I'm being beyond sight, making it happen despite of not having these things right here. So yes, when I say I lost my sight and gained my vision, that's just not a tagline. That's me really functioning in the world with with real with real situations, with real understandings, with real life experiences. It's just not, something fantastic so you can hit clicks, so I can get clicks. This is me putting into practice, putting one foot in front of the other, putting my hands on it, doing things that I'm living this. How many people can really say they living it? I'm living this life. And I'm thankful, I'm proud, I'm appreciative of God for being able to give me this. So I just wanted to share this with you. The main objective about this thing is awareness. Want everybody to start looking at life from awareness. Go back and look at some of my other podcasts. You'll see that I'm talking a lot about awareness. This is why. This is right here. This is why. And I'm going to talk about awareness a lot more. And I'm going to start bringing people in here to start having conversations with people again, interviewing other people again, because they are aware. I want to tap into other people's awareness about where they may have been, where they may be going, and what does that look like. It's beyond sight, y'all. All right. Y'all want to connect with me? By all means, please do. Y'all know what I tell you every week. You can connect with me, of course, here. Subscribe to the YouTube channel under the Hasan Clay Experience. Also connect with me on Instagram and TikTok. Hey, you know what? I'm kind of doing some more things with TikTok and Instagram. Y'all actually coming through a little bit for me. I got a couple more followers lately. Those reels been kind of touching y'all, I think. So by all means, share those reels and connect. Let's connect. Hey, you got some things you want to let me know. By all means, hit me on the DM or connect with me on up under this podcast in the comments and let me know what your thoughts are. Share your thoughts. Hey, nothing like give me some greetings. Say what's up. Give me some salams. Holler at me. You ain't got to really talk a whole lot. Just say, hey, brother, how you doing? I like what you're doing. Give me a thumbs up or something along those nature there. But even in that, I know many of you who don't say anything, but you always saying something to me when you see me out. Man, I like that podcast. And you tell me what you saw in the podcast, what you thought about it. So to let me know that you actually are watching something that I'm some content that I'm putting out there. So I definitely appreciate you. And so by all means, if you are on LinkedIn and Facebook, you can catch me at Hasan Clay. And by all means, my book's out. You can catch me on Amazon. Any one of my books, just put my name in, Hasan Clay. You'll see some of my books coming up there. By all means, please support in that and get the information. I'm sure you'll love it. And also my website, hasanclay.net. Check it out and tell me what you think about the content. All right. Until then, we broadcast every Monday. We release this every Monday at 7 p.m. By all means, set your notifications if you are subscribing and let your other people know. Set their notifications for 7 p.m. on Mondays. And by all means, y'all be safe. Y'all have a great week. Y'all have a even better weekend. Y'all stay safe. And we're going to see you back here again next Monday at 7